Hello and welcome to the Ham Radio Guy podcast. I'm Marvin. I'm your host, W0MET, and I'm thrilled to bring you a special edition of the show. Today's episode is a bit different as we welcome a very special guest, Mark WC3W from DX Marathon. We're going to dive into what is the DX Marathon, its history, how you can participate, and why it's not too late to submit your QSOs for any DX contacts you've had this year in 2024. Even if you're new to the idea, there's plenty of time to get involved and submit before this year's in. And let's talk about gearing up for 2025. This is one of the most laid back contests you'll experience throughout any of the year. And as Mark says, it's a marathon. So we're in it for the long run. And that's why it takes all year to do this DX Marathon contest. I hope you enjoy this special edition and you feel inspired to submit your log in 2024 and again in 2025. Join in on the fun. Thank you for joining in. Let's get started.
Thanks, Brian. Good day, 7-3, QRZ.
Okay, give me 5 minutes to pay back. I'm Kilo K1 more. I'm waiting for Mike Papat.
Hello and welcome back to the Ham Radio Guy podcast. We're here with Mark and WC3W from CQ DX Marathon. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Very good, Marvin. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for reaching out and talking about DX Marathon here and what this all entails. So I'm here in Massachusetts. I think you're here in Florida this evening. So we're, having a little bit of a distance here, but this should be good. And, it's been a rainy, crappy day here. So it's time to, it's a good day to be inside doing something like this too at the same time. So, well, let's talk a little bit about DX Marathon. It looks like it's kind of an annual thing. And of course, it's coming up again starting in January. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the history of it. We were talking a little before we went on here was that, sometimes you've given a lot of presentations and people aren't familiar with it. And this is my first awareness of it as well. I've never heard about that. So how long has DX Marathon been going on? And, what's the history of it?
Good question. And again, I want to thank you, Marvin, for hosting me.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. My greatest challenge is to get the word out in the program. And once I do it, I'll talk a little bit later about the amazing growth that we've had. History. Believe it or not, the program was started back in 1938 by Radio Magazine, which was CQ Magazine's predecessor, way before I was born. And they created the program and only ran it a year, and along came World War II, and they had to shut it down. And they tried to reinstate it a few years later, but that was the same year as DXCC came out. And there was a lot of programs that came out right after the war, and it just kind of died. Then in 2005, a Midwestern ham radio operator by the name of Bob Loker, some people in the DX world may recognize him. He's actually written a couple books. Bob's a wonderful man, W9KNI. He's retired. He lives up in the Pacific Northwest, but he approached CQ Magazine in 2005 and said, "Hey, I remember the DX Marathon program. Would you guys be interested in putting that back into place?" And they said, "Well, tell us what you want to do, Bob." And so Bob reconstituted the program, took it back to them, and said, "Let's go." And in the meantime, Bob, being a very smart man, recognized that this was going to take a lot of administration, as any program or contest does. So he recruited, at the time, young John Sweeney, K9EL. John was a good friend of mine. I met John through a mutual friend of ours who co-founded the Northern Illinois DX Association. His name is Norm Alexander. He lives about 5 miles from me here in Florida right now, W4QN. And I met John Sweeney, who was part of the Northern Illinois DX Association, at multiple Dayton, Visalia, Orlando, Ham Fest. And I really liked him, and we got along really well. So anyway, for 17 consecutive years from 2005, K9EL administered this program single-handedly by himself. And in 2021, and I actually was a participant in this through my friend W4QN, who made me aware of the program. And I saw on the internet that John said he was retiring. So I picked up the phone and I called John and I said, John, what are you doing? He says, Mark, I'm burnt out. And he said, I'm also building a house on the western coast of Florida, and I just got to build a little, piece in my life, And I said, well, tell me about the program. In about 5 minutes, I had just retired. I've been retired about 5 years now, Marvin, and I had just retired, and I was an executive vice president for a pretty large corporation. And
Oh, wow.
with retirement, I wanted to bring a little serenity in my life. And after I talked to John for about 5 minutes, I said, John, I can't do this. This is a full-time job.
That's
And
kind of funny.
so,
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I had a similar thing in 2022. The guy gave up winter field day and he was ready to be done and just kind of aged out and was done. And I said, all right, well, I'll pick it up and I'll run with that ball. And here I am still a couple years now later running it, and it's like, what did I get myself into? But
yeah,
initially, because it was like I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do all this. There's a lot to it, but I understand where you're
yeah.
coming from, and you're right. It's a great story in that
What
regard.
I'm
So
I'm not done yet. What I actually, at the time I hung up, I said, John, I don't think I can do it. So I got to thinking about it. In my job as an EVP, I was involved in a lot of businesses, and I created some businesses and acquired some businesses. And I know that you can do a lot through delegation if you get the right people in place. You
absolutely,
do things through people. So I picked up the phone a few days later and I said, John, what do you think of the idea of dividing the tasks and responsibilities, administrative tasks and responsibilities of this program among some people? And so, make a long story short, I asked him to outline what his key tasks and responsibilities were in administering the program. And I literally sat down and wrote job descriptions. And then I solicited his help because he knew a lot of the really solid players in the program. And we went out recruiting. And I put a team together of 5 people plus myself. So we've got
well,
6 people right now, and we spread John's responsibilities across 6 people. We've got a scoring manager, I got an IT manager, I've got a communications manager, I got a compliance manager. So, to make a long story short, we are now poised for tremendous growth. We completely, over the last 2 years, uh, this is about only my second year of administering. We have created a new website. We created a whole new scoring system algorithm. We've just done a lot of things, uh, and my main responsibility is doing what I'm doing with you right now, and that is spreading the word. I've done 85 Zoom meetings around the world in the last year, 15 months. I've
right,
attended Orlando. I gave a presentation at Dayton this year. I've attended W9DXCC. I attended W4DXCC in Pigeon Forge last year. That's
oh
your old
sure,
stomping ground, Marvin. And
right.
I'm externally focusing to try to get the word out to people and describe what a fun program this is. So that's a little bit of a history about it. If you've got any specific questions, I can elaborate more. But and we're
No, I
running
think
right
that's
now. We're running. We're the fastest growing DX program in the world today. In 20 Between 21 and 22, we grew, and when I say grew, we grew in the number of participants by 46% in 1 year, and then the following year, between 22 and 23, we grew at 50%. That means we have 50% more people who submitted their logs in 2023 than did in 2022. And the number of queues commensurately increased with the number of participants, which makes a lot of sense as well.
Makes sense. Absolutely.
So
That,
we're
that's incredible.
I'm really excited. My challenge, as I said before, is spreading the word out and making people aware of the program. And note, I call it a program and not a contest. I'm a big contester. I don't do as much contesting as I used to because I'm trying to build serenity into my retirement. I don't need to get all worked up. I have a natural propensity to do that, as you probably will appreciate at the end of this interview. I get my hooks in something and that I really enjoy, and I go for the gusto, you know. And
Right.
but I'm trying to build balance in my life now. So I love contesting, but the competitive nature of the thing, sitting in a chair for 48 hours straight and whatever is not my idea of serenity. But
It's challenge.
that's why we call this a program. And let me make one really key point here, and then I'll maybe go into the 30,000 foot level of what the program's all about. If you are competitive, and we have competitive types, we have many recognition awards in our program. We have beautiful plaques, we have certificates. Okay. The reason I got in the program before I took over this position is I once worked for a man who told me, I'm an engineer, and he was an engineer, and he said, I kind of have always been affected by metrics. And he once told me, Mark, if you do something and you can't measure it, it's not worth doing. The reason I got into the program was because I wanted to see how I was doing year over year over year in my capabilities to do DXing. Okay, I wanted to know, am I upgrading my equipment? Am I becoming a better operator? Okay. Am I spending more time on the radio? All these metrics would reflect my ability to work more CQ entities or more country entities and more zones. And for 7 consecutive years, my score improved every year. That in itself, again, I don't call that competition. That's just a metric to baseline my own performance against myself. And I really enjoy it. I would venture to guess that over half the people in our program do it for that reason. They don't do it for the competition. They don't even do it for another plaque or certificate. So many of us have so many of those, we don't need another one.
No doubt. You only got so much wall space to go with. So, for sure. So, how many participants can you give me? Do you happen to know like how many participants roughly are involved in like 2022 or 2023? Of how many people are taking part in that? Do you know those numbers?
I know them real good. The last year in 2023, which represent a 50% growth over 22, we were just short of 2,000 participants in the program. That was a 50% increase. Okay, my
Wow.
vision. What I did, Marvin, is when I took over the program, and I did a lot of things a little bit different than what K9EL did. I'm running this sort of like a nonprofit entity. I created a board of directors. I have an operating group. I have an advisory board, and I felt it was very important to put structure in the program because I have a vision, and I've got a vision and mission statement. I think we can grow this program in the short term from 2,000 to 5,000 and then 5,000 to 10,000. That's my vision. There's absolutely no reason why I can't do this. If you think about the numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, there's 2.75 million hams in the world. There's 750,000 in the US of A.
West.
By the way, 1/3 of the participations are domestic, are US, and 2/3 are international. So this is a world program. This is a world
Wow.
program.
So we have a lot
So
of
that
growth you can do in the U.S. alone. I mean, if it's only 1/3 of your
no
submissions are
no
coming from the
question.
U.S., you have a lot of growth. I mean, there's 750,000. You're right, here in the U.S. roughly, so give or take a few numbers. But I mean, that's only, you're getting about 800 people roughly or less about 700 people participating in that. So it's
Yep.
I can see where you want to have the growth, and I understand where you're coming from. With, again, I explained it's kind of winter field days along those same exact lines. So
Yeah.
I share your story almost in some ways, which is really
Yeah.
funny. It's like, this is surreal because it's like it's deja vu all over again, because I'm along the same exact lines. So about 2,000 participants in 2023. Are you looking? What are you looking for 2024? Do you really know how many
Well,
people? Do you have to
I
sign
have
up for this?
that's okay. That's a very good question. There is no sign up required for the program. In fact, for your listeners here and for you, if you have been working DX in 2024 and
Yep.
you have a log, you are in the program for 2024, not
Okay.
2025. You are in it right now. All and one of the appeals to the program, one of the appeals is simplicity. Now let me explain what that means. I'm going to explain what it takes to submit a log, okay? But simplicity, there's no confirmations required. There's no QSL card exchanges required. There's no LOTW. This is an honesty program. You work an entity and you log an entity, we count it. If you work a zone and you log a zone, we count it. Now let me tell you how simple the scoring system is. First of all, the clock begins January 1st and the clock ends December 31st. This is a marathon, it's a long run. So if you have other priorities in your life and you happen to not be around on a weekend or whatever, like you are on a contest, no problem. Go on vacation for a couple weeks, no problem. Come back, sit down, and work your radios. So the way we score it, we have all of the 340 DXCC entities. To that, we add 6 additional entities, which happen to be the Worked All Europe entities. So we come up with 346. Then we add the 40 CQ zones. For each one of those entities, those country entities that you work, for each one of the CQ zones you work, you get 1 point. There's no multipliers in this program. And
Okay.
you can go to our website, and basically if you have a log and you are logging your DX contacts,
Yep.
you generate an ADIF file. And most of your listeners here, if they work contests or whatever, they've generated, and almost all logging programs make it very simple to generate an
Right.
ADIF file. You go to that web page exactly where you are and see where it says load ADIF file. So you
Right.
take your downloaded, wherever you put it on your computer, your ADIF file, and you download it right there, and you have just made a submission. You're finished.
That's all you got to do.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
So Marvin, I want to see your call for 2024.
I will be making that. I've been now. My question is: so does this include CW,
Okay.
FT8, single sideband? So what
Yeah.
type of modes or bands are we working here, and what's the limitations on this?
Another great question. The beauty of this program is you work what you want to work. We have people that I happen to be part of CW Ops. It's my preferred, it has been my preferred communications mode for years and years and years. I love CW. That doesn't mean that I don't work FT8 and digital and RIDI, and that doesn't
Right.
mean that I don't work sideband. So I like I go for the gusto. Every year I enter the program with all modes and all bands. By the way, all bands is 160 through 60 and include the work bands. Many of your contests,
Don't
I'm not
they don't include
poo-pooing
those?
contests. They don't include it. All the
Right.
work bands are included in the DX Marathon program. Okay. So anything you work on 60 meters counts on the DX Marathon program. Okay. So I'm the kind of guy that likes all bands and all modes. My friend W4QN, he can't stand. He's gonna. I'm going to his 90th birthday party in about 3 weeks. He doesn't like digital. In 2019, he entered the program in CW mode only. He won #1 in the world.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to enter in CW, you can do it. If you want to enter in FT8 or digital only, you can
Right.
do that. Then what we do is we compare your performance, okay, against like mode people throughout the world. So you can kind of see where you rank with everybody. And these are published at
Sure.
the end. The 2024 results will be published in April of 2025. Now, it even gets better than that, Marvin. Listen to this. I like all bands. We have a lot of people. W9 KNI, he is a 40-meter nut. He enters the program each year in a single band, all modes. He does digital, sideband, and CW, but only on 40 meters. He enters only on 40 meters. If you have a preferred band, you can enter that. And trust me,
Wow.
there's a lot of people around the world that love just 40 meters. We have people that enter in 160 only. We have people that enter in 6 meters only. And then
Okay.
if you're the awards kind of guy, we have it's all on the web page. Uh, we have beautiful plaques that are supported by our many sponsors. We are nonprofit. Uh, I'm going to say something about CQ Magazine in a second, but we have never got a penny from CQ Magazine, and as most of you know, CQ Magazine no longer exists. But that doesn't affect our program at
Right.
all. We were anticipating. We are basically we're funded out of our sponsors who make contributions for our plaques. We issue about 30 to 35 plaques a year and about
Wow.
120 to 130 certificates, which are electronically generated to the winners. Okay. So no
Huh.
funding. There is a place on the front part of our website that if people are so moved, they can make a PayPal contribution to help us volunteers offset some of our costs, because we do have costs, and I'm trying to get to the point where we get a little working capital so myself and my staff don't have to put our own money into running the program. If
Right.
somebody has $5 or $10, just dump it in the PayPal, and believe me, with 2,000 people, that would, if everybody would just be so kind as to do that, it would really alleviate some of our issues and help fund our future growth. If you want to be a sponsor, an individual, one of my best friends here, I just started a youth program, 25 and under. It gets a plaque. He said, Mark, I love youth in ham radio. He wrote me a check for $100, which is a sponsorship. And he now has his name on the plaque, and he supports the #1 youth in the world in the program.
Wow.
Okay. Many clubs will support us, individuals, clubs, whatever. That's the extent of our funding. That's it.
Wow.
So let's see. Okay, now let me talk about one other important element. We try to establish classes to create parity among participants. When I say classes, I'm going to describe what exists in 2024. They're going to change in 2025, and I'll explain that in a second. Okay, we basically have what we call the unlimited class. Unlimited means any antenna configuration up to legal limit on power. Okay. Then
Yep.
underneath that, we have what's called the limited class. The limited class is 100 watts maximum and any kind of array antenna with certain restrictions. The rules are all on the webpage, www.dxmarathon.com. By the way, it's in 13 languages as well for any of
Yeah.
your
I just
international.
saw that a few minutes ago on the top of the page there. So
I,
I'm
I,
on this.
I
I'm on this
yeah.
web page talking about your different scoring and different methods by class here. So if you can see that.
Yes, there's so much information on the website, all the data from past years, and we have helpful hints. Uh, uh, which identify pirates out there, bad spots. We try to help our participants as much as we can. Our communications manager, K2CIB, literally daily peruses a lot of the newsletters, and we post at least once a week pirates, bad spots, QRV, de expeditions, et cetera, et cetera. We
Sure.
try to do that. So anyway, where was I? I lost my train of thought. There's a lot of
You're talking about classes and
oh
limited.
yeah, yeah. Let me finish that. Okay, so we've got unlimited, then we have limited, and that's basically most array antennas with certain limitations. Then we have what we call our formula class. Formula class, I believe, probably 75% of the ham radio operators fit in that class, and these are people that maybe can't afford a linear amplifier and they're in perhaps HOAs or they can't afford a exotic antenna system. So
Sure.
basically it's the class that have long wires and verticals running 100 watts. By the way, I have a big target to focus on this group. Why? Because I believe 3/4 of the hams in the world are really in that category. The super
Probably are.
stations like I have and enjoy, we're in the 1 sigma. I mean, we're really a small part of our hobby. Most folks are in the under the bell-shaped curve are in the 100 watts running a long wire dipole or a doublet or a vertical antenna. That,
Right.
by the way, to confirm my suspicions, that class increased 400% last year. I think this was mainly through
Wow.
my Zoom meetings. Okay, and there's two other things that have contributed to this class. It's called Cycle 25 and it's called FT8. It's made,
Right.
to some of the people, and I respect their opinions, but you'll hear people poo poo the FT8 technology. That's not ham radio. Well, I'm old enough to know that I used to operate AM and they were saying the same thing when we went from AM to sideband. Okay.
Right.
That's really not voice communication. So,
It's kind of like
ham,
POTA and FT8 have probably revived amateur radio in some ways and brought it
it's,
to life for younger people.
Well, here's the way I feel, Marvin. I became a ham at 12 years old, and I was dating this little girl and whose dad worked for Caterpillar Tractor Company in Peoria, Illinois. He was a mechanical engineer. And I went over to their house. He took me downstairs, and he had this Collins amazing, and he flipped the switch and got on the air and started working people all over the world, hook, line, and sinker. I said, I got to do this. I got to do this. I believe that DXing is a portion of our hobby that out of these 2.75 million, I don't know what the number is, but I think that many people really love the thrill of DXing. And I've enjoyed it all my life. And the reason I like FT8 and the reason I like Cycle 25 is giving people who may not have the financial wherewithal or the property or whatever to enjoy the wonderful world of DX because it is DXing. Okay.
Right.
And tell me, audience, tell me what's wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that because just like I loved it, why not pass along and allow other people to enjoy it as well?
I agree absolutely.
So that's my little spiel on FT8 and Cycle 25. Cycle 25 has been. Oh, you might a statistic you might be interested in. We had three about out of our 2,000 or so participants, they turned in 350,000 cues. 50% of the cues were on 10, 12, and 15 meters. That's called Cycle 25.
That's cycle
That's
25. You got that exactly right.
that's
No doubt
called
for sure.
that's called propagation, and it is wonderful. And if any of you out there in the audience, if you're just thinking about getting back on the radios and getting in DXing and getting in our program, you can't have picked a better time than the next today and the next few years.
Yeah.
It is so much fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something I've gotten into the last 6 months myself a little bit more. So,
And you
for
don't
sure,
you don't have to have exotic equipment. I've got
you
people
don't.
in the program that are in condominiums at townhouses in Annapolis that have a wire antenna in their attic working FT8, and they're working the world on
Yeah,
100 watts. On 100 watts.
absolutely. I do it
Okay.
right back here all the time. So, for sure. And then I think there's one other class called Formula 5W. So,
Oh, oh, okay. All right. Uh, you're right. So we got formula, and then that's actually called QRP. And believe it or not, that's another program, or that's another class that's growing. A QRPer is somebody that's operating 5 watts or less. So those are the four classes uh, right now. So you have, when you submit, you declare a class that's really defined by the equipment that you're using, your operating
right.
conditions, we call those. It will automatically define you. And we have a new submission process that basically allows you to fill in the blanks, and it will automatically put you in a category based on your antenna, based on your power, et cetera. So you don't even have to think about that. You just fill out the submission form, you take your ADIF file, you upload it, and you have made an entry. And again, I want to reemphasize, you still can do it in 2024. The official final window for submission is January 1st to January 5th. After January 5th, no more submissions are taken.
All bets are off.
But
um,
what you can do, let me make another very important point. With the new submission program, you can submit every day if you want. Your latest submission will update your previous one. Okay. And by the way, all your submissions are confidential. Only you can see your submissions. They're not public.
Interesting. Wow. So, why do you choose to go with ADIF format versus a Cabrilla format or something?
It's just easy to use, and my IT guys, we've always used ADIF. It's universal. I know Cabrilla is just as well, but I'm not an IT guy, so maybe it's easier to manipulate the data. I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm from even from what we've been doing over the winter field day side, we kind of take both now, and it created some challenges for us here in 2024. So it's interesting that that's what you're taking. That's what Parks on the Air does. Things like that. So it's a
We've
very common submission file, and I'm glad to hear that you're actually. I mean, it makes it pretty easy. So
we
I'm glad to
we
hear that actually.
ever since I've been associated with the program, it's always been an ADIF. I don't know why we don't move to the Cabrilla, but ADIF works fine for us.
Yeah, that's very
And
cool.
almost every out of the 10 or so logging programs, Marvin, every single one of them will generate an ADIF file, usually with the push of a
True.
button. It's very simple.
Looking for top quality cables that you can trust? ABR Industries has you covered. Proudly American built and reliable, ABR Industries delivers premium coax cable and connectors for all your communication needs. Whether you're a ham radio operator, work in broadcast, or manage critical infrastructure, ABR ensures that you are connected when it matters most.
And it has such tremendously different characteristics.
From static to clarity, ABR products. Built tough, built here, built for you. ABR Industries. American built and reliable. Visit abrind.com today and experience the strength of superior connectivity. It's the only coax here in the W0MET Ham Shack. Use code SAVE10 Ham Radio Guy. ABR Industries, where reliability meets performance. Anything interesting about rules that people would need to know about specifically, other than just making those contacts and making the submission?
Yeah,
Anything out there?
yeah. Let me just mention. No, this is not a program for POTA. It's not a program for mobile. It's not a program for aeronautical mobile or ocean or what do you call the sea
Maritime.
maritime
Maritime.
mobile. And the reason it isn't is to participate in the program, you must have one fixed location for your station. Now, I have a remote station. remote stations are legal. Last year, I had two stations. I owned a home in Colorado. I had an HF station there, and I own a home in Florida, and I have a station here. I could not commingle my contacts between those two stations. I could have two separate submissions, but because there were two locations, I couldn't combine the two. That is verboten. It's not fair. And if we catch you, you're in big trouble. Okay. So,
Gotcha.
so basic, uh, the point system, just let me just mention a couple rules.
Yeah.
We do, it's an honesty program, but in fairness to those who are playing honest, which is 99 point whatever percent of
Yep.
our people, occasionally we'll have people that'll try to take advantage of us. And what we do is we also use we have a verification algorithm, and I don't even understand it all. Our scoring manager is a retired IBM coder, and we can tap into databases, and if you say you worked a guy and it doesn't match, then you're not thrown out of the program. The penalty is we just deduct 1 point. Now that doesn't sound a lot, but for those people who are in the hunt, that are really going for the gold in competition, for example, in the unlimited class, the winner of the unlimited class gets a beautiful plaque. We had 15 people that were within the top, that were spread by less than 10 points at the top. That's
Oh, wow.
that's in 300 points. So 1 point to them is huge. Okay.
I can make a
If
big
you
deal,
make a
right?
mistake, we encourage everybody to check their logs. If you type a 0 in and it should, or you type an O in and it should have been a 0, like your call. If you type W0, that's a broken call, minus 1 point. Okay.
Right.
So you know what? Probably 50% of the people get some kind of a penalty through our checking system. But we're also trying to make people better operators.
Yeah,
You shouldn't
absolutely.
have broken calls. You got to take care of the information that you're putting in the log and protect the integrity of that, just to be a good operator. So we do that verification. I actually, on many of the QRVs, I will contact those people and they will send me their logs, like Bouvet or
Yeah.
Crozet, and we load them into our software, and then we machine compare it to people who claim to have worked it. So we do a little bit. We don't 100% check. It's
Right.
impossible, and we don't want to, and we don't need to.
Right.
But we're just trying to keep everybody honest, because if people are
That's-
beginning to take advantage and cheating on the program, we'll lose a lot of people, and I don't want to do that. I
we don't
want to
want that.
keep it. I want to keep it above board, and I want to keep it an honesty program.
Do you
By the
know if
way,
you're
yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say, do you know if like logging programs like N3FJP or Scoom Logger, maybe N1MM, they have certain contests that you're able to go in there and select a particular contest. I know you're not a contest, but are you on a particular log file like that where you've done contests? You have to select the particulars out of that. Do you
Yeah.
just you go off a general contact log, or do you know if some of those logging programs will actually have something for the DX Marathon specifically?
Yes. Yes. The answer to your question is yes.
They do.
Uh,
Okay.
DX Labs, Dave, AA6, YQ, I forgot his call. He is a marathon participant, and he has done a wonderful job in building in marathon capability. It's great. Michael Walker, Dr. Michael Walker, who owns Ham Radio Deluxe, he's
Really?
also a participant. Wonderful
Okay.
man.
Yep.
He has he has a beautiful built-in program. Some of the others do. I just don't know them as well. But those two in particular are really, really supportive of our program and active participants in our program.
That's really good to hear. That's really cool then. So if you do have a logging program, just check and see if DX Marathon by chance is in
Yeah.
that list of again, programs or contests. I don't want to call this a contest. I know you don't. It's not that, but it usually will fall under the contest list of modes
Yeah.
in some of those programs. So. Something good for the listeners to be able to go check out too, and be able to find that from there.
Marvin, I have in my on the web page there's an FAQ tab.
Yep.
If you go to the FAQ tab, I actually discuss a question on what logging programs that I am consciously aware that support our program. Someplace in the FAQs. I don't know where it is.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of pulled it up here. We'll see if I can quickly find
Yeah,
it.
it actually tells you how to go to the program and there it is. There you go.
Yep.
What logging programs can I use? And there it is right there. There's a lot of detail,
Right.
but I list a bunch of them. I know for a fact that all those support our program.
That's awesome. Okay. Very cool.
Yep.
That is great to know that they can be a part of that. And so that makes it hopefully a whole lot easier for people to go, hey, I already use that program. This will make me easy for a quick submission. So if you've got those DX contacts out there this year that you know you've made and you're using one of these programs, how much easier can it get to go out and let's help DX Marathon get more submissions this year, even so than what they've had before. Let's blow them off the water. And if we can help them out in any way and get more submissions, and never know, you might just be a winner out there. Never know. So that's a great.
Even if you're not a winner, I guarantee you, I'm developing a new logo, and I call this it's fun. It's
Absolutely.
simple. It's very simple compared to a contest and multipliers and verifications and everything else. It's so simple. If you've got a radio and if you're working DX and you're logging your DX, that's all you need. It's that simple. It's that simple. And you know what? That whole submission process will take you all of about 5 minutes. It is extremely simple. I also have a video. It's on the webpage someplace, a link where Sebastian, KI2D, who is our IT director, we chit chat about how the submission is made. We walk you through it. It's a YouTube video. It's a link to a YouTube video.
Okay.
And great. It's a nice tool.
I'll try and provide a link in the description for that as well. So
okay.
Yeah.
What did I miss? I know there's something I missed. I can talk forever, but
no, I think that's really good. We kind of got through the quick topics of the history and some stats and talking about 2023 and the growth and the rules and some metrics. And so I think this has been great. And I hope that, again, for listeners out there, they can, make a log submission for you. Again, blow you out of the water this year with the amount of logs being submitted.
Yeah.
And I'll be submitting mine. I'll throw it out there. I'll make a guarantee that I'll throw myself.
I got one sale. I got one
sale.
By the way, let me just finish by mentioning two quick things. For 2025, I'm working on the rules right now. I'm going to add 2 additional classes, and this is by, it's what I call the voice of the customer. When I was in business, I learned that probably 90% of your ideas don't come from research and development. They come from your customer, from your users. And so what I'm doing in the formula class, which is the big class that most people are in, there is a segment of that class who are running, if you recall, dipoles, wire antennas and verticals. But they have linear amplifiers. So I'm creating a 2-tranched formula class, one for 100 watts and one for 1,000 watts. So you'll be able to select between the two. Okay.
Nice.
QRP's 5 watts, but I have a very significant large group of people who also stepped up and are sponsoring a plaque. And that's how I created the different class. There are QRPers that have to live within certain historically antenna restrictions. It's basically the formula restrictions. Yep. We had a group of QRPers that were very adamant that they wanted unlimited antenna configuration. So I've created an unlimited QRP. If you want to put
Wow.
a 200-foot stacked array running 5 watts, you will be able to do that in QRP now. And you know what? It's like, Marvin, it's like, show me the money. But it's more than that. There were a lot of people. He got a group together, and there's probably 20, 25 people that are interested. And you know what? I'm listening. So
That's what's important. And when you're in an organization like yourself and myself, that you
yeah,
got to listen to the people, or what the changes they want, what might suit them best.
yeah,
And it sounds like you're doing that exactly like that. And you've had tremendous growth, and this has become a bigger deal than you probably thought it would be back then. And
it was.
that's exciting to hear. So I hope that we'll
I've
continue to be able to keep that up for you.
Yeah, I've got a group IO that you can search
Okay.
on. I've got 500 or 600 people on that, and we just created a Facebook page. If you go to Facebook and type in DX Marathon, we have a Facebook page. And then, in conclusion, for all your listeners, feel free to write me an email if you have any questions at all. My call is Whiskey Charlie 3 Whiskey Charlie 3 Whiskey at dxmarathon.com. I got a lot of help. If I can't answer the questions, I'll give it to one of my staff people, and I promise you we will get back to you.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Anything else you can think of that you want to add before we check out here and say 73? There's some merchandise you can go on the website and grab. There's some hats and things like that they can grab. So
I got
you
one
want to help
right
out
here.
with donation, there you go. Yeah. So they've got shirts and hats, coffee mugs, etc. So if you want to help out DX Marathon a little bit and let them continue to be funding. I mean, I know from my personal experience in running, again, I've made a couple comparisons. Like I said, it's deja vu for Winter Field Day, but a little bit of funding to help pay for websites and things like that. It does go a long ways. We appreciate your patronage to organizations like this. And I think it's so very important to be able to do that. So to be able to keep them alive and going, it does take money to function, and we do fund these out of our own pocket a lot of the time. So I can understand your feeling there as well. So well, thank you for coming on to the show. I appreciate you being part of the Ham Radio Guy podcast this evening, and thank you for joining us and telling us all about DX Marathon, its history, its growth, and what its future looks like, and and how we can go in and submit logs. I think that's so very important, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you have a great success of the amount of logs being submitted here in 2024 and beyond. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, Mark, and have a good evening.
Marvin, thank you once again. I will be at Orlando in February, and I will have a forum there. So any of your listeners that might be in Orlando, it'll be on Saturday. I think it's Saturday at 1 p.m. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, I'll be there for sure myself, and I'll come see you then. Look forward to seeing you. And you'll have a booth there as well?
No booth.
No booth. Just a forum going on. So
yeah.
All right.
I have produced palm cards and business cards, but they're expensive.
All right. No doubt. Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much again, and have a great evening. 73, folks.
Thank you for to your listeners as well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the special edition of the Ham Radio Guy podcast. It's been great having Mark WC3W from DX Marathon with us. Hopefully this episode gave you a clear understanding of what the DX Marathon is, how you can participate, and why it's such a fantastic opportunity to grow as an operator and challenge yourself. Remember, it's not too late to submit those QSOs for those DX contacts you made in your 2024 log and start planning for 2025. Whether you're chasing those rare DX contacts or just looking at ways to improve your operating skills, the DX Marathon is a perfect way to stay active and challenge yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share it with your fellow ham radio enthusiasts. You can also follow me over on social media on Twitter or on patreon.com/the Ham Radio Guy. Thanks again for listening, and always, 73, keep making those QSO contacts, and I'll catch you next time on the Ham Radio Guy podcast.